We just heard Shaktikanta Das talked about, how the norms have now been eased for farmers and how the daily withdrawal limit for commoners like you and I have actually been reduced because, people were beginning to hoard up cash to now 2,500 from the earlier 4,000 daily limit. So let's chat about all of this with Harsh Roongta, personal finance expert. He joins us on the show right now. Harsh, hi, good afternoon. Firstly, for the benefit of our viewers, and, they often write into our personal finance dashboard and try and figure out what's the taxation slab for the old notes that we are now depositing back into the bank. Mr. Roongta, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Roongta, go ahead. Just wanted to understand the tax slabs for the old currency deposits that one is making into the bank.
Well, I don't think there are any tax slabs as such. I mean, any currency that you deposit into the bank account, you would have to explain where that deposit comes from. And I think it is irrespective of amount. The 50,000 rupee daily limit or 2.5 lakh limit overall for this period from 9th November to 31st December. That is only for the purpose of reporting that has been given. I'm sure when the time for return comes, the income tax return, it would provide for you to be able to give all the details, and you will have to justify any deposit that you make there, any cash deposit. And if you are not able to justify those cash deposits, that would be treated as income from undisclosed sources. So,
yeah, that's exactly what I meant when I said tax slabs, Mr. Roongta, because, above that 2.5 lakh rupee limit, there is that 200% penalty as well, which is being talked about. Why don't you explain to our viewers that in case they are unable to generate an account of that income and the money that they're putting in, what's the taxation then?
So that's what I'm saying. There isn't a slab. Even below that, the tax department has, they may not get information from the bank, but they will definitely ask for information from you about any deposit that you make. The 200, I mean, there is this huge thing about the 200% penalty. That is on whatever income they will determine during the course of assessment. I think very clearly, whatever cash you deposit, even if it is less than 2.5, that will be treated as your income if you are not able to justify it with your current income. And obviously that income will be taxed at the same slab as whatever is your slab that will added on to any income that you yourself declare. And on top of that, obviously there will be penalty and there can even be prosecution. So, I mean, clearly any monies that you deposit in your account, you better be able to explain. I don't think there is any limit for that.
So, Mr. Roongta, you made it quite clear, and that was the point I was going to ask you, that earlier when the disclosure scheme happened, the penalty was 120% with very severe prosecution. So, what's your sense? You think we're going to see the tax department scrutinizing a lot of accounts? We can expect, harassment maybe from the tax department, if you want to call it that, followed by prosecution?
I would say that if the tax department plays it smart, I mean, they would have plenty of information, what they would have got from the bank. They would ask the person, the taxpayer himself, to submit certain information in the return that will come up. And I think if they are smart, they should be able to really zero in on high potential evaders rather than harass the person who does not really have any undisclosed income. So if you look at a regular person, say somebody who is salaried, and the money that he is deposited essentially is, say, saved up savings, even if your salary is, let's say, 8 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 12 lakhs that you have been disclosing for the last 5, 7, 10 years, and if you now deposit 3 lakhs and you have withdrawn a lot of cash over the years, I think that is explainable. So I don't think you would face harassment. In fact, you probably may not even get a scrutiny notice. So will the tax department be smart? I think they will be smarter, because there is no point in going after the smaller guys, and they should definitely go after people who have evaded taxes so far. That's a great signal for people who have paid their taxes honestly.
Very different. Should and would are very different. We've always seen, there's always been this perception that the tax department doesn't go after the big fish. It's the smaller fish that always get into trouble. And now we also understand that income tax notices have been sent for information to jewelers, for example. So all of those people that went in to buy gold and jewelry late into the night on the day of the Prime Minister's address, do you suspect they could be getting into trouble?
Maybe it's very difficult for me to predict, and I agree with you that in the past the department hasn't really covered itself with glory in terms of intelligent use of the considerable data that they already have. And one just hopes that now, because the data will be so rich and their ability to cross-tally it will be so high, that they will really go after the big fish. Yes, that is a hope, which I think that's a necessary follow-up to this entire step. Otherwise, all this would have really been in vain. Today, we are going through hardship. A common person who's paid his taxes honestly is going through hardship with a clear understanding that in the future, he will see big tax evaders pay the price. If that does not happen, then obviously the government will lose a lot of capital, a lot of political capital out of this.
Harsh, we've been getting quite a few queries, on our personal finance dashboard, and some people have inquired whether there is any leeway that they would get if indeed there is a wedding in the family, and one has to gift money. And if indeed that is a cash gift, how would they be able to justify it eventually, A? And also for the purpose of just investments in their children's name, is there some special benefit that they would get if indeed, again, they have to deposit old notes?
So again, the key thing is that law hasn't changed at all. I mean, demonetization hasn't changed the tax laws at all. So if there was a wedding in the family, if I have received gifts, if anybody has received gifts because at the occasion of the wedding, I think very clearly that is exempt from tax. It will have to be commensurate with whatever income. So you cannot have a wedding gift and you show 1 crore as wedding gift. Then the question would be that in a wedding where you have received 1 crore as gift, where was that wedding done? How much was spent on that? Where did the money come for that? I think as long as things are explainable under the current law, probably there will not be harassment. I understand the fear of harassment because that has been the track record, and one hopes that with the rich data that the tax department now has, it will go after the really big guys, and that it will spare the regular middle class folks who mostly pay all their taxes on time.
Okay, Mr. Roongta, we're going to leave it at that. So that's Harsh Roongta with his advice on all of you that might be looking to make some bulk deposits into your bank accounts, what all you need to be wary of. And remember, you can always keep writing in for our Personal Finance Corner. Our email address is personalfinance@